The Vatican Library and the Bodleian Library and just a few other libraries are the only places where we have the sources for these fundamental works of literature and philosophy and science. Without these collections, we would not know very much about ancient Greece and about early Christianity and about the origins of Western culture. Obviously important manuscripts are the earliest manuscript of Pindar, one of the earliest and most important manuscripts of Plato, and very important and early manuscripts of most classical authors. And of course the Codex Vaticanus, the 4th century manuscript of the entire Greek Bible. These manuscripts that I've just mentioned have all been studied very thoroughly by generations of scholars, and in the case of the Codex Vaticanus there is a very good facsimile edition of the manuscript. I would argue that it's more important actually to give scholars access to manuscripts that have not been studied so thoroughly, or perhaps in some cases have hardly been studied at all. In the end, we decided not to sort of cherry pick this or that manuscript which we thought might interest a certain category of readers, but rather to try to create a sort of global library of representative texts from ancient Greece and Byzantium. This is a manuscript which is also quite famous, not as famous as the Codex Vaticanus, but it is well known not so much for its text as for the miniatures which are included in it. It's the Reginensis Graecus I. At some time in the past, the decision was made to remove the miniatures which were part of the manuscript and to bind them separately in this volume. That's a decision which probably wouldn't be made in the same way today, but we can't just stick these miniatures back into the manuscript. But the situation can be rectified virtually by putting the folios in the right order online. This is a 12th century Bible, which is again not as famous as the Codex Vaticanus. In fact, it's not famous at all. It's the Janus R638. It is quite well known to Septuagint scholars as manuscript 19. It contains a rather odd text of many books of the Old Testament, which needs to be studied and compared with the standard Greek text of the Old Testament more thoroughly before we can understand exactly what is going on here. It's known as the Lucianic text. This is a typical 14th century scholarly Greek manuscript containing plays by Euripides, Sophocles, Aeschylus, and also a bit of Hesiod. The very interesting thing about this manuscript and many others like it is the comments in the margins. But no one has yet found the time to go through all of these and read them and make an edition of them. And probably you have to realize that there are many, many manuscripts like this one. Probably nobody will ever take the time to go to the libraries where they are held and compare all of the scholia in the margins and put all of those texts together to make a printed edition of the commentaries, the scholia. By putting these manuscripts like this online, we are finally making these texts available so that they can be read even though there isn't, and like I said, probably never will be, a proper edition of these scholia. They will be available for scholars to look at.